Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Laura. In February 24 we sailed on board P&O's Arvia and this is a review of our cruise.
This was a 7-night cruise calling at St Kitts, Martinique, St Lucia and Barbados. We've cruised frequently with P&O in the past, but Arvia was the only ship that we hadn't yet managed to sail on.
At New Year, we sailed on board P&O's Aurora and we had a bit of a mixed experience. So P&O really does have a bit of making up to do.
If you're new to our channel, we release a new video every single week, so please do make sure you're subscribed.
As we booked the cruise quite late, we had no flight options at all. So we were on a Malefa Aero flight from Gatwick. Now Gatwick is probably our least favourite airport to fly from just because it's a little bit inconvenient for us to get to and it's quite a long drive for us.
We had seen and heard quite a bit about Malefa Aero before our cruise, so we made sure that we were quite well prepared for our flight. We did things like purchased ourselves a meal deal and made sure that we got ourselves some drinks and things from the shops at the airport before we got on board the plane.
We also knew that there was no in-flight entertainment, so we just made sure that we had got things downloaded that we wanted and took some books with us to read.
It was a little bit disappointing that we did have to do all of these preparations before the flight, but we were well aware when we were booking that we were going to end up with Malefa Aero flights, so I suppose we can't massively complain about it.
We were pretty impressed with the staff on board. For example, when we boarded the flight, everybody had water on their seat apart from me, and I just asked a member of staff and he got it straight away. However, we did find the flight extremely uncomfortable. The plane is definitely not suitable for a long haul flight. It would be okay for a quick flight to Spain, but not to fly for 7+ hours.
We were also a bit frustrated that when we did land in Antigua, we had to wait on board the aircraft for a further hour because there were no coaches available to take us from the airport to the ship. So that did add a little bit extra time on there and made us feel even more uncomfortable.
Once we got on the coach and we transferred to the port, the whole embarkation process was very quick. It was a bonded flight, so that meant our suitcases were next seen outside our cabin. The staff in the port building were all very friendly and efficient, and we were on board Arvia before we knew it.
The first thing you usually do when you arrive on a P&O ship is head to your muster station, but we had a cabin change just before our cruise and after we printed our embarkation paperwork. So that meant that we had to pop to our cabin first to find out where our muster station actually was.
Once we found out where our muster station was, we quickly headed there, got our card scanned, and then headed back to our cabin to watch the muster video. The muster video is on the TV at all times, so if you ever need a refresher, you can just turn to that channel to watch it.
Later on in the day, there was also a ship-wide announcement just making all of the safety arrangements very clear. You can listen to this announcement from any of the venues on board. You don't have to go to a muster station to do it.
We think that muster like this is really simple and really efficient, and we much prefer it to when you have to stand around or go to a venue with your life jackets and listen. It means you can sort of get on with your holiday a little bit quicker.
Arvia's cabins are well appointed and modern. We were in cabin 4441, which was an inside cabin on deck 4.
We liked the location of this cabin. It was easy to get to the lifts or the stairs, and it was especially good when we were disembarking the ship, as disembarkation usually happened on deck 3.
The storage, as is expected in an inside cabin, is quite limited, but we did manage well with it for a week. We didn't really struggle with finding places to put everything. It is useful to probably note that there are no drawers in any of the cabins on Arvia, so we like to use packing cubes as this makes it a lot easier to keep your stuff together.
One thing about the cabin is we found the lighting to be quite dark in there. If you're somebody who spends a lot of care on your makeup, you'd have to do it in the bathroom because in the cabin it was a little bit too dark. This did mean though that it was really dark in there at night and you could get a great sleep.
Overall, we enjoyed staying in this cabin, and we do think that Arvia's cabins in general are really nice cabins.
As is to be expected, Arvia is in great condition. She isn't showing any signs of wear and tear yet, and she's been very well maintained. Whilst we were sat in the glass house one day, we saw a little snag, let's say, and somebody reported it quickly, and then within 20 minutes someone was there repairing it. We were super impressed with how quickly the maintenance was done.
We like the decor in general in and around Arvia, and we like that they've made some little different touches to make it feel a bit different to Iona. An example of that is the gold sort of decorations that have been put around the atrium area. So it does give it quite a different feel. We also think that all of the venues on board the ship are well themed. Some particular examples of that are places like 6th Street Diner and the Olive Grove. They're so nicely decorated, and some of them almost give you a feel as though you're not on a cruise ship.
If you've watched any of our previous videos, you will probably know that we quite like a late night on a holiday. We were, however, surprised to find that on Arvia, people seem to go to bed quite early when we thought it would probably be a bit more of a party ship. We got the impression that lots of people were going to bed at pretty sensible times and then were getting up early to enjoy the sun of the Caribbean.
There was a fantastic friendly atmosphere on board, and we did get the impression that most people were really up for having a good time. We saw some people really enjoying themselves at events such as sail away parties and just in and around the pool areas.
This cruise was sold out basically, and that means there were over 5,000 passengers on board Arvia, yet we've managed to find seats pretty much anywhere we went.
We aren't sun worshippers, so we didn't join the early morning sunbed scrap or anything like that. But when we headed out a bit later on in the day to try and find a sunbed, we did always manage to find one. We found that the beachcomber pool area was actually a little bit quieter, which was designated as adult only for this sailing.
On the occasions when we went for a walk around the prom deck, we noticed that the sunny side of the ship would be very, very busy, but on the shadier side of the ship, you could always find a few sunbeds next to each other.
There were no surprises for us with the service that we got on board Arvia. We found it to be friendly and efficient.
The majority of times we were ordering drinks, we found waiters would come to us more or less straight away. There were a few occasions when the bars that we went into were busy, so we did have a bit of a longer wait then.
Sometimes we did have to wait for tables for dining venues at peak times, and this was exacerbated by the My Holiday app often showing full queues. This then meant that we had to head down to the venue to join the queue physically rather than joining the virtual queue.
We found that when we got to the venue, we usually then got seated straight away and there would be plenty of tables in there. The only time this was different was when we went to the Keel and Cow, when we then had quite a long wait, and then once we were seated, we then had a long wait for our food too. However, they had warned us of this.
We did our best to try out as many of the food options on board Arvia as we could. However, as we were only on board for a week, we didn't manage to fit everything in.
Highlights for us were the Beach House, Limelight, Keel and Cow and the Keys. We both agree on the fact that we prefer Iona's, Olive Grove, but we did still enjoy our meals in there. Well, I enjoyed both of them, Laura not so much because she was ill on the first one.
Lizzie enjoyed 6th Street Diner, but I did not. Lizzie will claim it's because I made poor choices, but I'm just not convinced there was anything that I was really interested in trying on the evening meal menu in there.
We chose not to eat in the glass house on board Arvia because we prefer the menu that is on board Ventura and Azora.
We're not often big cruise ship buffet fans, but we did also find that the buffet on Arvia had some good selections in there, and the food was always quite fresh and hot, so it wasn't a bad buffet.
We had some onboard credit for this cruise, so we decided that we were going to use it on a drinks package. This meant we decided to go for the deluxe drinks package again, which is priced at $54.99 per person per day.
Because we were spending our onboard credit, we had to obviously wait until we were on board Arvia to purchase our drinks package. This meant that we weren't able to take advantage of the 10% discount that you do get when you pre-purchase your drinks package online on the Cruise Personalizer. You do still get your Peninsula Club discount on board, but that's once all of your onboard spend has been used.
We really like the deluxe drinks package because it gives you a wider choice of drinks to drink from. My particular favourites being the fact that you can get a large glass of wine and you can get rhubarb and ginger gin.
We usually find that the deluxe drinks package does represent good value for us on a P&O cruise. On this particular cruise, Lizzie definitely did get her money's worth out of it. I probably didn't as much because I wasn't feeling well for a good chunk of this cruise, but normally I definitely would have.
When we've sailed with P&O in the past, we have had what used to be called the Ultimate Drinks Package, which is very similar to what the Classic Drinks Package is now. In the summer, we are sailing on board P&O's Iona, and we currently have the Classic Drinks Package booked. So if you want to see how we get on with that, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Because of the size of the ship, there is a lot of entertainment going on board Arvia.
As is usual on board P&O cruise ships, the headliners theatre cast were very talented and we enjoyed watching their productions. We especially enjoyed watching Greatest Days and found it quite an emotional show to watch.
There were also some great shows in the Sky Dome on board this cruise, but one event that was taking place in the Sky Dome that I felt was a bit of a miss was This is a night-long event, really, and it was very poorly attended, which just meant that the atmosphere was a bit flat in the Sky Dome that night. There were also the people that were in there just didn't really seem to get it, I suppose. They seemed to know what you were supposed to do, whether you were supposed to be joining in with the dancers or sitting and watching what was going on.
It's a real shame for the performers. We actually watched them rehearse for the show and we really enjoyed watching their rehearsal. So it's a real shame for them because it's not like they're getting the plaudits that they deserve because they are very, very talented.
The guest entertainers that we had on board our cruise were also very good. We had Rachel Haunt on board, who we have seen on a cruise before, and we enjoyed her performances once again. She is full of charisma and performs so well. I also quite enjoyed the performance by Tommy J, who is like a comedy juggler. It's clearly aimed at families, but I still enjoyed watching that.
We also found that there was a lot of music on offer around the ship. So as usual, there was the P&O ship band Pulse, and we enjoyed a few of their sets, especially enjoying things like Guilty Pleasures and their pop sets. And we really enjoyed Phoenix the band and getting to listen to Caribbean music while we were in the Caribbean because that was something we'd never experienced on a ship before.
Despite 710 being fully booked for the majority of our cruise, we did manage to sneak in one night and really enjoyed the performance by the band in there. Again, they were all very talented performers and clearly they really enjoyed what they were doing on board.
As this was our first Caribbean cruise, all of the ports were new to us. Before we travelled, we were particularly excited about St Lucia and it didn't disappoint us.
Unfortunately, as I wasn't feeling well for a good chunk of this cruise, we didn't manage to venture too far afield in any of the ports. We just spent most of our time in and around the port areas.
We were very lucky that the day we were in Martinique was Mardi Gras, so we got to see Carnival and it was as colourful and vibrant as you imagine.
We enjoyed the hustle and bustle of Bridgetown in Barbados, and we really liked the views of the sea as we walked along the seafront there.
In St Kitts, we weren't a massive fan of all the little monkeys that were around that they're trying to get you to have photographs taken with. And we did enjoy, though, looking around all the port shops and just looking at the souvenirs that they were selling.
We found that the people in the Caribbean were so friendly and we wouldn't hesitate to visit any of these ports again. Next time we would definitely venture a little further afield, maybe using some of the taxis that were available in the port and doing some of the excursions that are planned.
One of the best things about fly cruises on P&O ships is you get to stay on board the ship until it is time for your transfer to the flight.
We were able to enjoy breakfast and lunch on board Arvia, and we also were still able to use our drinks package on that final day on board, which we thought was really good.
The transfer to the airport was quick. However, we did feel like we could have probably stayed on the ship for another hour because we were at the airport for quite a long time, and one of the other flights actually left the ship after ours, even though their departure time was before ours.
The flight home was once again with Meleth Aero, and although there was a small delay, we were soon in the air and flying. It was an uncomfortable flight again, and like we said before, we would not choose to do long haul with Meleth Aero again.
We think this cruise was really good value for money. We paid £1,049 each for 1 week in the Caribbean in February half term. This included the flights and transfers. We think this was a really good bargain because we were looking for a cruise for that week and we saw cruises in the Canaries for a very similar type of price.
We had never seen a Caribbean cruise during school holidays as cheap as this. We do suspect that the price was so low because of the issues with the Meleth Aero flights that people were aware of.
Usually we are put off by booking a week-long Caribbean cruise because it can be only £50 more for the second week sometimes, and it just really frustrates us that it's so little difference, but we can't do the 2 weeks at that time of year.
Overall, we did really enjoy our week on board Arvia, and we felt that P&O did redeem themselves after the experience we had on Aurora over New Year.
As with all cruises, it wasn't without fault, but all those faults were quite small really. The biggest fault being the Meleth Aero flights, but we survived.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like and drop any questions you've got in the comments down below. Please also consider subscribing to our channel. You can also follow us on social media. We're Sisters on the Seas.